If I could right now, I would hug you because I'm going to make you so fucking angry, okay? I will make you so angry that you will throw your mom, your sister at my face. You don't care if they get hurt. So angry am I going to make you right now. Because I'm going to say that Windows is better than Linux. Where do I start? Is it more secure than Linux? Debatable. Is it more stable than Linux? Debatable. Is it faster than Linux? Debatable. Does it take less resources than Linux? Debatable. Depending on how you set each systems up, all of this can be debated. But where Windows is better than Linux, I'm so used to say Linux is better than Windows, but where Windows is so better than Linux is a really, really easy one, the community. Are there toxic people under Windows? Yeah. But I'm not an outcast in the Windows circles, or being looked down upon, or being judged in the Windows circles for running Mac OS and Linux. I am in the Linux communities, for most people in Linux communities. I'm not getting preached that proprietary software is the best thing in the fucking universe and everyone should be using proprietary software and there's only one true fucking God and that's Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and we all have to fucking bend down on our knees and take it right up the fucking butthole and then turn around and say thank you big daddies. None of that is happening under Windows, but under Linux there is a philosophy, there is a ethos, there is a book of rules what you can and can't do. So that alone, and I could go on for hours about the difference between the communities. Alone there, Windows is better than Linux is. The convenience. There is so much convenience by running Windows. It's not even funny. If you have any form of disability, especially physical disability like hearing, eyes, speech, stuff like that, Windows have you fucking covered. It's so fucking easy to use Windows if you have a disability compared to Linux. It's not even funny how bad Linux is for people that have bad eyesight, bad hearing, and so on. So, is it doable? Yeah, I have seen and known of people that have used Linux that are blind and can't hear and stuff like that. You can use it if you can't hear, but blind people have been using Linux. But Windows is just way better, and I think even Mac OS is way better than Windows, if you ask me, on the accessibility standpoint. So Linux is just being like demolished when it comes to, at least on the server market. I don't think they're hiring deaf and blind people that often to work in a server room. That can end up really bad for those people. They can hurt themselves quite a lot. They make them, sit at home and teleporting in and, CSH into a system and stuff like that, or virtual desktop their way into things. They can probably do that, but you get what I'm saying here. Windows is like owning accessibility. On top of that, if there is a software out there that you've run 10 years ago, you can probably find it under Windows. Either update it or you can still run it in compatibility mode. You don't have to install Wine and do all of these fucking crazy tricks and tricks, tips and tricks to get it to run. You just install it and run it. Linux can be Linux do have great compatibility with software, but it can still be a fucking mess because now you need to make sure that you have old libraries. The DLL hell we used to deal with in Windows in the early 90s, it's still a kind of thing under Linux. It's instead of calling it DLL hell, it's called library hell. I was about to call it use and abuse. That's not the right word I was looking for. I was thinking more on the line of use and forget. Like Windows is a use and forget system. Yes, are there software and drivers, and can Windows sometimes grab itself and give you a blue screen of death? Yes. My experience, ever since Windows 10, I run Windows 10 from day one. Not 6 months into Windows 10 got released, and up till now, Windows 11 now. I can say for certain, 100,000% guarantee that I have had more crashes and I had to reboot my computer way more under Linux than Windows. And I've been abusing Windows more than Linux, meaning that I'm taking extra care with Linux that things did not fucking F up. I maintain Linux way more rigorously and harsh than I did with Windows. More often cleaning shit up, more often making sure everything was, tip-top fucking, in tip-top shape. Where under Windows I didn't give a fuck, still don't give a fuck to be honest. And it still just seems to be working. So it's like a use and forget system. You install it, you install the programs that you want, and if the drivers are not fucking up or Windows taking a crap on you, you just use it and forget it. You boot into it, you log into it, you open up your programs, that's it. Oh, there's an update, I have to reboot. That's the biggest inconvenience that you have. You have to reboot. Under Linux, depending on what you're using, it can be kind of the same, or it can be like, oh, there's an update. Oh, let's back everything up and let's call my mom. Let's make a testament and let's take a massive dump so I don't shit myself in frustration. And let's get a beer or two or snaps in our fucking systems to calm the nerves and then do like, update and please don't fuck things up. You're fucking it. Okay, it's nothing fucked up. And then the next day or next week, like, oh, let's update. Oh my god, now I have to do fucking crop, or I have to do Lilo, or I have to fix system D, or, you know, you just don't deal with this fucking shit. Some people want to do that, that's okay, but that's not what we're talking. Like, I want to deal with it, but that's not what we're talking about right now, that some people like that aspect of the open Linux. We're just talking about the generalization of Linux versus Windows. And then there is the familiarity. And this is a really fucking big one. It's what makes most people still want to use Windows. They are used to it. They grew up with Windows, they work with Windows at work, so they want to use it at home. That means so much more than anything else you can... Like, they are almost okay with Windows taking their kidney while they're asleep, just because, oh, I'm used to Windows. I know how it works. It just works for me. I don't have to learn new things. That is a really, really, really massive fucking great thing about Windows. Is that you grew up with it. The same with Mac OS, you know. If you become an art student or go into design fields and stuff, most likely you'll be using a Mac. So you're getting familiar with Mac so fucking early in your adulthood and your childhood. Linux needs to capitalize on that market. We need to fucking take the young ones, okay? Linux needs to get hold of the kids, because the kids is what is going to shape the future. And if we're only exposing, you know, Linux to the adults or us, that it's too... Like, in my opinion, Linux is already too late to influence the market if you only get exposed to it when you're in your mid-20s or early 20s. It needs to go into schools, it needs to go into educational systems. So people get familiar with using Linux when they don't know how to use anything else. There are people out there nowadays that are growing up in families now, luckily enough, where they have seen nothing but Linux machines. But they are like so fucking small. That's where Linux needs to capitalize. They need to go into the youth, you know, into the kids, you know. They need to be fucking... not force install it, but they need to get into the to that area of the market, because then they get familiar with Linux and not Windows. But that's not how it works, because Linux don't want to push that market. They more care about the server market and the desktop for professionals and thinkers, even though you can be just as professional under Windows and Mac OS, and you can tinker just as much under Windows and Mac OS. Maybe not the operating system, but then there's a shit ton of software that you can tinker with. And let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest here. How many of you guys are tinkering with the operating system? Like, how many of you are going in and messing with the kernel, the userland, and systemd and stuff like that? Most of the time, you're configuring and tinkering with your desktop environments and the programs that you're using. There's so many things that Windows is just doing better than Linux. And I know right now you're fuming out of your fucking mouth. Like, if you could fucking hit me in the head with a fucking skillet, you'll been done. I would already been laying on the ground and bleeding out of my fucking anus and my ears and my eyes and mouth and all that shit. But we have to be realistic here. None of what I have said right now is actually a lie. Because Windows have our speed in those areas. And so many more areas. Can you say that, well, Linux is just as good? Yeah. But here's the thing. If I told you right now to move to this city over here, and you will, why should I move? I have my family here, my friends here. You will get all of that over there. And where you're going to live is just as good as where you're living right now. Not better, but just as good. The food is just as good, the area is just as good, the education system is just as good, your job is everything is just as it is right now where you are. It's just a little bit different, but it's just as good as where it is right now. Why the fuck why should I move? Why should I, leave all of this behind for something that's basically the same, just a little bit different, but just as good and the same? And you would be right. Why the fuck should you? Most people, they change their life or direction in life because they need to, they want to, because they need for their health, or, they want to find greener pastures, or what the fuck you were calling it. So basically meaning that you're seeking a better situation than the one that you're in right now. Moving to Linux is most of the time it's not going to be a better decision for you. That just like if you really sit down and you think about it, and it's just like Windows is doing a lot of things better than Linux is. It really is. That I'm not saying that everyone should go out and run Windows right now. But we have to be honest here. We have to look at things and be like, yeah, if your eyesight is really bad, or if you grew up with Windows your whole life and you're 40 years old, or 25 or 80 years old, and there's no good justification for you to switch other than telemetry and the license, just stick with Windows. It's a really, really interesting thing to think about. That a lot of the reasons why we are actually changing to Linux comes down to personal preference. And that is why Windows is better than Linux, because sometimes people's personal preference means that Windows is better for them. And we have to be okay with that. We have to acknowledge that. We have to understand, and we have to make the community understand that it's not Linux or go home or Linux or go bust. It's okay to use Windows, because for some people, Windows is better than Linux. Actually, for most people, when we are really honest about it. And we see that in the form of the market share of Linux versus Windows and Mac OS. But you get what I'm saying here. We're smart people out there, and we need to start to tell ourselves that Windows is better than Linux. Again, I'm about to say Linux, but Windows is better than Linux. For a lot of people, most people, or most situations, or some situations, put whatever fucking word in there you will, but there are cases where Windows is just better than Linux. It may not be from a tech standpoint, but then it could be from a community standpoint. It may not be from a license standpoint, but it could be like, I don't see that well, And I don't see that coming from the Linux community almost at all. Like, almost not at all. And I feel that's a little bit shame. See you all later. Bye-bye.